Call regular city council meeting Monday, December 16th, 2013. To order. Clerk, call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Here.
Ferrari.
Here.
Waldorf. Lukosius.
Here.
Perez.
Here.
Radke. Mueller.
Here.
Sapienza.
Here.
Mayor Harrell.
Here. Pledge of allegiance. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes and place on file?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
A motion by Alderman Putoff, second by Alderman Waldorf to approve the minutes and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any reports?
No, Your Honor.
Go right to committees. Well, wait a second. Public comment. Was there any public comment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Committee reports. Council and Finance. Alderman Putoff. Alderman Radke.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to present to the City Council the total disbursements for December 18th, 2013. Those disbursements are $2,021,736.87. I'd like to make a motion that the disbursements be received, placed on file, the bills paid in the usual manner.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to receive the disbursements, placed on file, and the bills paid in the usual manner. Is there any discussion? Have a roll call vote. Clerk, call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Aye. Motion approved. Nothing further.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Public Works. Alderman Waldorf. Lukosius.
Yes, Your Honor. Tonight we were going to discuss for authorization for the purchase of a new locator head on the directional boring machine. And after some additional questions that we had, we met with the representative from Vermeer today, and they actually had some better numbers for us. So we're still putting these numbers together, so I'm going to ask that we table this till our next meeting.
Your Honor, I have no report at this time.
Okay. Public Health, Safety. Alderman Ferrari. Sapienza.
Yes, Your Honor, we have the approved Police Department monthly report for November 2013. In that report, I'd like everybody to pay attention to the back. There's a commendation. I'm going to read it. Police Officer Amy Sines on November 30th, 2013 exhibited exemplary conduct in the best tradition of the professional police officer, to wit. Police Officer Amy Sines responded to Elena Valley Community Hospital for a report of a suicidal man threatening to jump from the roof. Officer Sines engaged the man in conversation and in short order was able to convince the man to re-enter the hospital and eventually was able to bring the man to a place of safety. Police Officer Amy Sines' actions were that of a seasoned and compassionate police officer, and her action provided police service in the true sense of the word, for which she is respectfully commended. Police Chief Doug Burnaby. Chief, could you just fill in a little bit of her training before this went on?
Sure. Well, Amy's been with us for, pushing 9 years now, I guess. In addition to her police academy and college and whatnot, probably about 2 years ago, we sent Amy off to, I think it was a week-long school out in Iowa on crisis and hostage negotiation. She's one of the 3 officers that we have in call for situations like this. And she happened to be the officer that was on duty, one of the officers on duty that responded. And my understanding, she probably saved this guy's life by her techniques and her tactics and how she approached the whole situation. So certainly it warranted the formal commendation as opposed to just a letter of appreciation. It's a formal commendation that'll permanently be retained in her file. And the gentleman has recovered nicely and things worked out.
Thank you. I'll make a motion we accept this report and place it on file.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alderman Ferrari, second by Alderman Sapienza to accept the approved police report, placed on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Your Honor, we have no report from Fire Department today. Chief, did you have anything to say here? I see a nice card sitting in front of us.
Yeah, that's a picture. That's a new truck that's going to be coming in hopefully, we're gonna be finishing a lot of this stuff this week, and we'll be seeing it here before the end of December, so.
Thanks, Chief.
Alderman Ferrari, Sapiens, I have one item. I sent out an email today just alerting everybody. Also did a lot of Facebook posting and whatnot on a reminder to everybody in town regarding the 3-inch snowfall ordinance where vehicles have to be removed from the street so the plows can get in and have the opportune time to clean from curb to curb. We've had our first couple of snows. We've tried to make warnings and knock on some doors and get cars to be moved, but in anticipation of what possibly is coming this weekend in the way of snow, we're going to have to start ticketing vehicles. So the grace period is over with, and we're going to have to ticket vehicles. If cars aren't moved and the plows have to go around them, you know, that ice and snow can literally be there for the next several months until we get a thaw, and causes a safety issue and a certain inconvenience for people's neighbors. So we're asking people, once it hits 3 inches of snow, they have 12 hours to get the vehicles off the street. And then they have to keep them off the street until the plows have a chance to get there. They don't have to wait 12 hours to take the vehicles off the street. We'd appreciate if they do that before that, but they have 12 hours. So if it stops snowing at 8 o'clock at night, by 8 in the morning, the vehicles would have to be off the street. So hopefully we'll see some press on that, and we're going to continue to put it on the websites and that sort of thing.
Chief, at our next safety meeting, we're going to bring this up again and look at that ordinance, because when they're plowing the snow, they're out plowing the snow, and it's not 12 hours after the snow falls. And if that car is there, I've been out and I've looked, and there's just heaping piles of snow, and sometimes those cars can't even get out. So I think that ordinance, we'll be looking at that again at our next
That'd be worth a discussion. It's a tough one how to handle that, but it's definitely worth a discussion. So hopefully, like I said, we might be getting a pretty bad one this weekend the way it sounds. So we're trying to get the word out.
That's all we have, Your Honor.
Public property, Alderman Perez, Miller.
Yes, Your Honor. I have the Peru Recreation Fund cash summary for period ending November 30th, 2013. Total funds available November 2013 is $42,528.88. Total funds available same time last year was $32,295.81. I'd like to make a motion we accept this report and place it on file.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to receive the recreation account summary and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Your Honor, I have the Peru Public Library cash account summary for the period ending November 30th, 2013. Total funds available in the library fund are $449,183.43. I'd like to make a motion that we receive this report, place it on file.
Second that, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Mueller, second by Alderman Perez to receive the library cash account summary and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Your Honor, I also have on the agenda to discuss and approve spring 2014 structural change to pickleball tennis courts at Washington Park and 28th Street Park. On December 10th, the Park and Recreation held their monthly meeting. The board's discussion and motion to move pickleball to Washington Park in spring 2014 was unanimous. The original discussion last month was to move to Sunset Park. The final cost estimates for that court alone came in over $14,000. Members of the board, along with Park Director Kasich, thought moving pickleball to Washington Park would be more cost-effective and will allow for an extra summer sport camp for kids, and would also allow little kids to play and practice tennis on the pickleball court because the lines are striped in that manner. That will be done at Washington Park. The biggest cost of these structural changes are the new posts and concrete work. At Sunset Park, it would have consisted of 4 posts for 2 permanent courts, where at Washington Park, the board is requesting for 2 of the 4 courts. 1 court would be lined and set for both tennis and pickleball, and the second court would be lined and set as a permanent full-time pickleball court. The total estimate for the structural change at Washington Park is $5,950, which the Public Property Committee has agreed to line item that for the 2014 budget. In addition, the Recreation Board will fund the 28th Street Court conversion back to a tennis court. That's $4,800. In 2011, the council moved to allow pickleball to remain at 28th Street Park for 3 years due to these recent agreements between the Public Property Committee and the Park and Recreation Board. We agreed to move forward with that. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion for the spring 2014 pickleball and tennis court structural change to Washington and 28th Street courts not to exceed $6,000, and to note that the Park Board will fund the structural change to 28th Street Court.
I'll second that.
Been a motion by Alderman Perez, second by Alderman Mueller for the structural change for the pickleball tennis courts. Is there any discussion? Why did your committee offer to pay for that?
Your Honor, with the costs for 28th Street Park, the Park Board had agreed to pay the $4,800, and being that there's going to be a permanent activity in the city approved for pickleball, our committee had decided that would be the best route to go and to for that structural change. It's not just an activity; it's a structural change to the to a approved court or to a approved public park court. So that's why we had agreed to do that.
They have $42,528 in their account, and you want to pay for it out of general fund?
Yes, Your Honor.
And they're going to be receiving another $75,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff. Aye. Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf. Aye. Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
The City Baseball and Softball Board has been working in conjunction with the Park and Recreation Board to improve our fields. One of the main fields that needs work is McKinley Park. The fencing has been there since day one and has many areas that are beyond repair. The outfield fence is only 4 foot high, and balls slip under many areas of this fence line. The City League Board has received donations and would use those funds to fix up the McKinley ball diamond. The total cost for fencing is $19,300. This includes a backstop that is 14 foot of fencing plus a canopy, dugouts at 8 foot tall fronts and 6 foot tall back in fencing. The sideline fencing would be 6 foot tall. The outfield fencing would be 6 foot tall. The City League Board has $14,000 to invest in this project and would like our assistance in funding the rest of it. The city has an opportunity to replace this fence for $5,300, which I feel that our committee feels that we should jump on that. The Public Property Committee has agreed to allocate these funds for the 2014 budget. It's our recommendation to the council to approve this. With that said, I'd like to make a motion. The city contributes $5,300 for new fencing at McKinley Park. This would also include tear out and disposal of the fencing, which I believe that we could probably discuss keeping that fencing if the city wants to, and utilize that for any other projects if we would like. Other than that, otherwise they would go ahead and dispose of that. There's a gentleman here, if we have any questions from the City League Board, that could answer any questions that we would have, but it's something that our committee feels that we should help make those improvements at McKinley Park. So with that, I made the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alderman Perez, second by Alderman Mueller. Once again, why are we doing that? They're going to have, we're going to be giving them $75,000, and they're going to be up to $117,000. What kind of projects do they have?
I understand that, Your Honor. It's not the Park Board. It's the Recreation, or it's the City League that is going forward and contributing $14,000 out of their donations. And they had asked the city, being that is the city park, for us to contribute $5,300 towards that fencing. If we don't take advantage of this, there's a chance that either that fencing doesn't get, we don't get new fencing, we deal with that later on, and there's a possibility that the city could end up being responsible for more of the funds on that. So,
Did they ask the Park Board to participate in it?
Yes,
And
they
the
are.
Park Board said what?
yes, they're contributing, I believe it's $4,600 or something like that, into that fund.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf. Aye. Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
Your Honor, this evening we discussed to approve the process to offer for sale the city-owned Water Street property west of Mays Lumber and east of the former powerhouse. The Economic Director, Vickery, has stated there are interested parties in Water Street properties. The land west of Mays and east of the old power plant is of interest if the city is interested in selling it. Our committee has discussed it and agreed to forward to the council our recommendation to seek an appraisal of that land, then to follow procedure to sell that land if the council chooses to do so. So
This is the pole yard, is what
Yes.
we would refer to, the public works guys would refer to as a pole yard.
or
The
boneyard,
light
whatever they
department
call
guys.
it, yes.
I think you'd have to be careful or basically have some statement the city's not responsible for anything underneath or any involvement for containment or anything of that nature. And can you legally do that?
The prior use was just for poles or poles and transformers?
Jim Putoff's not here, but I know they stored poles there. I'm gonna make the assumption they stored transformers there, but I can't answer that.
I think over the years, there was many things stored there, but
Well-
predominantly poles.
What's
Well, I mean, years past, you know, I mean, transformers had
well taken.
PCBs in,
Yeah.
so that's,
Previous
only
to our
issue.
ownership also, what was that before the city owned it?
I don't know, can you tell us? No? Sorry.
you'd have to have some type of a buyer.
well, you would do
beware.
a phase one, if you wanted to. That'd be Midwest Testing, Safransky, or Chamlin. I think those are the only two in the area that do phase one testing.
Would we be responsible for whatever was there before?
You may. I'm not an environmental lawyer, frankly. The person that we usually use is from Peoria, Hinshaw Culbertson, John Filetto. He was from town, but now he's moved to, he left that firm and moved to Florida, so we'd have to find a new environmental lawyer. I'm sure, you know, but there aren't any environmental lawyers outside of larger cities, Peoria or Chicago. Sorry. But I mean, the information you would need, whether you do in the first instance, would be what's called a phase one. And a phase one will determine whether or not you do a phase two. Phase one, you know, is not that expensive. Phase two is very expensive because then you're doing actual soil testing. I mean, frankly, the cost of all that's going to exceed the value of the underlying real estate.
Well, I believe that economic developer, Mr. Vickery, has a potential, some potential interest that would be interested in building there, that would bring in jobs, whether it be manufacturing. Well, according to Bob, it would be manufacturing and some possible retail into that area there. So,
Yeah, what I'm wondering is if we shouldn't wait and hear what Sean has to say, because he had some comments about that at our last Public Works meeting.
oh, okay.
So I didn't know how urgent this was to get this done, but he's not here tonight, and
Right.
we have another meeting on the 30th. Is that?
I
does that
believe
get us
Bob
past our-
said that he was prospective interest wanted us to know whether we were going to do something on it. Could we just possibly get a appraisal on that property and take that first step to see if that property is what it's even worth? Could we do that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have a problem against that.
Why don't we
I
do
think-
that? If we could just go ahead and get the property appraised and give us an idea of what it.
Yeah, I mean, an appraisal assumes there are not any environmental issues.
Yeah.
And then, but if you wanted protection, then you would get phase one. If phase one's fine, you would sell it and move on, you know.
But I think to begin the process is probably,
Yes.
you know, with an appraisal, and we discussed a rotation of a local appraiser that's from Peru
Yes.
that can do
So
a
if we-
commercial property.
If we do get an appraisal, we assume, we're letting him assume that there are no environmental issues?
No, sir, that's step two
Okay, so we can
would
get
be
an
the
appraisal without-
environmental. Well, of
without
course,
comment
yeah.
on the- Okay, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Or somebody could just buy it, you know, and accept all environmental issues. And nobody's saying there are any environmental issues, you know. I mean, if there were just poles there or transformers that didn't leak, I mean, there really shouldn't be an issue, but...
I think probably the bigger issue would be previous to my time. And
there could be some Indian artifacts there.
We're selling ice at that point in time. But I think the step would be is, let's just assume, get an appraisal, and let's just assume it is as is, and go from there.
I mean, property sold all the time with environmental issues. I mean, every house that was built before they stopped lead paint has lead paint in it, you know, and I mean, asbestos shingles, asbestos flooring, I mean...
I think we're complicating it. Let's just get an appraisal and move.
Do we have to make a motion on that, or can we just do it? I make a motion that we seek an appraisal on that property.
No, we can't do it that way.
No?
We'll have to put it on next week.
Well, it says discuss an approved process.
It says discuss and approve.
We don't need a motion to get an appraisal on a property. Just have the clerk ask for an appraisal. It's within your right to...
Well, you should designate which appraiser. There are 3 in town, correct, Alderman? I believe there are only 3. No, there are 4.
That is a commercial property, so we'll need to determine who is qualified to make a commercial appraisal.
Well, tonight I know that Blades is a commercial appraiser, so why don't we move forward with Blades, given that appraisal for this time?
I'm not sure of that, Alderman.
Well, they're the ones that gave the appraisal on the
ESDA building.
ESDA building.
I know, but raises a good point. I don't know if Ken Mullen is, or
Koyak.
Or Koyak.
Koyak or Malooly.
Well, if we just make the motion to seek an appraisal, and then we will...
I know both Malooly and Koyak are licensed for commercial in the state of Bridge.
Just make the motion to send out for appraisal. And
well, why don't you do this? Why don't you just send a proposal to all 4 of them, and they can give you a quote?
Make a motion to send a proposal to all 4 of them and get a quote on the property at Water Street.
I'll second that.
Motion and second to seek proposals on property on Water Street. Is there any discussion?
Proposals for an appraisal.
Proposals for appraisal.
For an appraisal.
Quotes for an appraisal.
Have a roll call vote. Call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. Alderman Mueller?
Nothing further.
City Attorney?
Yes, the first 4 ordinances on the agenda would abate the 2013 tax levy for 5 different bond ordinances. The total of those abatements would be $1,946,892.50. So those would have been bond issues supported by a general obligation bond tax levy upon the real estate, but those payments on those bond issues are otherwise paid from other funds. And even though some would be like electric fund or other refunding, you generally go with a general obligation bond issue because the interest rate is lower than it would be from a general revenue bond issue. It's not dramatic like it used to be. Historically, the difference between revenue bond issue and a general obligation bond issue supported by a tax levy would be over 100 basis points or over 1% difference. Now with the contracted interest rates, you don't have that dramatic difference, but that's what these ordinances do. Although your bond issues provide for tax levies upon real estate to support the issues historically, in the almost 37 years I've been here, they've always been abated and never levied upon the underlying real estate. The first abates the 2013 tax levy as provided by the Series 2010 Recovery Zone Economic Development bonds. Be it ordained, levy of direct annual tax, an amount of $248,130 the year 2013 is provided by that bond ordinance, is unnecessary due to presently available funds in the general fund, electric fund, and/or water and wastewater fund, and therefore said levy may be and is hereby abated, and the county clerk of LaSalle County, Illinois, shall not extend taxes for year 2013 as provided by that bond ordinance.
I'll make a motion that the ordinance be adopted as written and read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the ordinance to be adopted as written and read. Is there any discussion?
Doug, with all these ordinances, they have to be placed with the county by January 1st, correct?
Well, no.
The abatements?
No. It's advisable to do so, but they wouldn't really have to be there until they actually do the extension. But as a courtesy, it's better to get them done sooner rather than later.
I'll just make a comment on the 40. I just find it interesting. We're abating about twice as much property tax as we actually levy. So that's probably a good ratio.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved.
The next one, Bates bond issue passed October 26, 2009, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds 2009A. And therefore, be it ordained, levy a direct annual tax in the amount of $369,612.50 for the year 2013 as provided by that bond ordinance is unnecessary due to presently available funds in the general fund and/or water and wastewater fund. Therefore, said levy may be and is hereby abated, and the county clerk of LaSalle County, Illinois, shall not extend said tax for the year 2013 as provided in that bond ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion that the ordinance be adopted as written and read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved.
The next debates actually two levies as provided in the 2011A and 2011B bond ordinances passed September 7, 2013. Be it ordained, levy a direct annual tax in the amounts of $107,625 and $445,325 for year 2013 is provided by the bond ordinances and necessary due to presently available funds in the general fund, electric fund, and/or water and wastewater fund. Therefore, said levy may be and is hereby abated, and the county clerk of LaSalle County, Illinois, shall not extend said tax for the year 2013 as provided in the bond ordinance.
Make a motion that the ordinance be adopted as written and read.
Second.
A motion and a second for the ordinance to be adopted as written and read. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved.
The final one abates the general obligation bond tax levy for bond ordinance passed March 16, 2009. Be it ordained, levy a direct annual tax in the amount of $776,200 for year 2013 as provided by the bond ordinance is unnecessary due to present available funds in the electric fund. Therefore, said levy may be and is hereby abated, and the county clerk of LaSalle County, Illinois, shall not extend said tax for year 2013 as provided in the bond ordinance.
I'll make a motion that the ordinance be adopted as written and read.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Putoff, second by Alderman Radke. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved.
I just have a short story I want to share with the council. My dad was an alderman for about 16 years, and towards the end he was failing with cancer, and one of the last things he said was, "Don't forget to abate the taxes." So how important that is from a city standpoint is that if you don't abate them, it goes to the tax rolls, and again, the property owners are holding the bag for it. So that's why I made a motion to do that.
I thought I heard lightning out there.
Next, we have an ordinance authorizing easement purchase agreement with Hawkeye Land Company of Illinois concerning Area 1, Phase 1. This would be for a water main and sewer main under the railroad property. The underlying rights to the land were purchased a number of years ago from Hawkeye Land Company. I'm not pleased with the arrogant attitude, frankly, that Hawkeye takes concerning these easements. It's left kind of a take it or leave it attitude, so there's language in the easement that I'm also not happy with, specifically the indemnification clauses provided in those easements. The state legislature several years ago passed an ordinance, because everybody's getting held up by the railroad land companies, and they provided for the $1,500 for a railroad crossing fee. Well, that's fine in and of itself, but that legislation also provides that, you know, if the parties don't agree with the $1,500, it goes to arbitration. Well, to take a matter to arbitration, you have attorney's fees, you have appraisal fees. Appraisal fees on a commercial piece of property is probably going to run you $1,500. You have the appraiser testifying, and then when it goes in under the statutes, it's by the American Arbitration Association. So that is a list of arbitrators, and one side strikes off a name, the other one strikes off a name until you end up with one. But those arbitrators are typically $500–600 an hour, so it's unlike, arbitration is unlike a court judicial system where the judge is free, at least for the litigants. But when you go to arbitration, you also pay for the arbitrator. So the bottom line on all of this is that $7,500 is a ripoff, but it's still probably cheaper than the alternative, and I believe the committee addressed the issue. And that's why these land companies take the attitude that they do. And if you had a number of easements rather than just one, you'd be well advised to go ahead and fight it. But, you know, it's the same throughout Iowa and every place that Hawkeye acquired the underlying fee rights from the railroad. The easement that's here, Sean has been working with Adam Osula, and the easement that was presented, at least on the technical end, they made some changes. I sent those back to their attorney. So the ordinance would just be to authorize the easement purchase agreement, but the easement itself will be revised a little bit from what was presented. I'm very confident that won't be an issue with Hawkeye. They just take and grab the money is what it is. I mean, they don't even warrant title in their easement agreement. I mean, the other thing would be to just go ahead and do it on a self-help matter and let somebody sue you for inverse condemnation, but that's what it is. I do not recommend it, but you don't have a lot of alternatives. I don't like particularly the indemnification provisions as provided in the easement. In any case, that being said, be it ordained, after approval by the city engineer, the mayor, on behalf of the city, is hereby authorized to execute an easement purchase agreement by and between the city and Hawkeye, a copy of which is hereto attached. It is hereby appropriated and authorized a payment of $7,500 to Hawkeye for the easement. Dave, this easement that's attached will not be the final one, just so you know.
There will be revised language?
No, it's a take it or leave it, Dave. I can't do anything with the language. With the engineering, yeah, they're gonna change the width of the easement and a couple other things, and I'm sure they don't have a problem with that. But their other form language, with respect to no warranties, and particularly the indemnification is what's problematic to me, because you just went through one of these indemnification provisions, and we were lucky to get out of it, as you know, on the also on the railroad, because the only way we could acquire that easement at the time, also from Hawkeye, from the Starved Rock Hydro to the city, was that easement, and that easement back then also had an indemnification provision, but you know, it worked out good for the city, but it might not have been. Here, on the other hand, the indemnification would be, I mean, the contractor is doing the work. Is this one Operman, you know, is otherwise providing a certificate of insurance, and they have all the insurances, and the indemnification relates only to the pipes that are going in. So it's, you know, the one on that we had the issue with, there was a cable strung across right away.
So, can I make this motion without the phrase?
Yes, sir. No, you just motion to adopt the ordinance.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance as written and read.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius to adopt the ordinance written and read. Is there any discussion?
How many other easements do we anticipate to need? I mean, I don't know how we could possibly answer that question.
Mike, can you use your, thanks. The long-term control plan that is in the 10-year capital plan, I believe has 2 additional crossings as part of the long-term control plan, but the unknowns will be any water main or sanitary sewer crossings at other locations that ever require future maintenance, so you could have many.
So if we have 3 or 5, it's $7,500 each, we're looking at, you know, all rolled up over the years, 30, maybe 50,000.
But if you don't just take the 75, I think their initial offer was 40, wasn't it? It was 40.
Yeah, they wanted 40,000, and then, you know, I talked to the guy for 2 minutes, and we ended up at 7,500. It was then down to 10,000.
We could take them to court and spend however much.
Yeah, and it's not only that; it's a project they want to go on, and frankly, arbitration and you know, I even talked to appellate judges one time, because the law always thinks arbitration's great, you know, keep it out of the court system, and they don't understand the process, frankly, because we had 83 arbitrations filed in the Starved Rock Hydroelectric project. But, you know, you're paying for the room, you're paying for your own attorneys, you're paying for your own experts, you're paying for the mediator, and the delay, I haven't had one recently, but the delay was a year sometimes before you even had a mediator picked in those arbitrations, you know. Finally, we went through 3, and then the others were just globally wrapped up, and the way that was settled at that time was the engineering firm undertook, Stanley Consultants undertook everything. But it still wasn't resolved, and it took about another 2.5, 3 years after that, but at least the city was out of it. But, I mean, it's really not cracked up what you think it would be. Well, just go to arbitration. It's very long, inexpensive process. Even back then, you had the equipment manufacturer, Bouvier, you had Roush Construction Company, you had the city, and you have the engineer. And just the cost was running $28,000 a day, and this was, you know, 20 years ago, whatever.
I have a motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius. Is there any further discussion? A roll call vote.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Nay.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Motion approved.
Next, you have an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances concerning open burning and other for be it ordained. Section 42-1A2 is added. There will also be no burning on federally designated holidays. And that was a result of the last Labor Day, was it? Thanksgiving. Yeah, Thanksgiving was, party got frustrated because of open burning. And then the second amendment to that provides the fire chief and/or fire marshal of the city, within his or her sole discretion, has the authority to grant a no-fee building permit when open burning exceeds the scope of this ordinance. Now, this came up because of property well outside the city, talking about burning an old fence line that wouldn't bother anyone. Correct, Chief?
Anybody going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion we accept the ordinance as written and read.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Sapienza, second by Alderman Ferrari. Is there any discussion? Have a roll call vote. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff. Aye. Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved.
The final ordinance on the agenda amends the charges for false alarms. Be it ordained that Section 38-92A of the Code of Ordinance the City approves shall be and is hereby amended as follows. So there would be no false alarm charge for the first 4 false alarms in any calendar year. The 5th false alarm and all ones thereafter are $50, and the rest of that ordinance stays the same. So it will be a cut anticipated revenues from that about in half, but it'll make a lot of businesses happier.
Make a motion that the ordinance be accepted as written and read.
Second, Your Honor.
Been motion by Alderman Sapienza, second by Alderman Ferrari, to be adopted as written and read. Is there any discussion? Have a roll call vote. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff. Aye. Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved. Anything further?
No, sir.
Any unfinished business?
Your Honor, I have one thing. I don't know if some of you have noticed today that they finally started cleaning up Crazy D's. I went up there this morning and talked to them. We've been talking to them. Well, that was one of the things I first started working with when I started. We've been sending that company a lot of emails, a lot of letters, and I finally sent her one last week stating if we didn't have this project going by the 16th, I was going to ask the council for legal action tonight. Well, they're there working on it. One of them spoke with them today, and they believe by Wednesday everything should be cleared up. The wall is down, so I was up there tonight, and I think they got 3 loads out of there today, and they're hoping to be done by Wednesday.
Thank you for that.
Any other unfinished? Any new business?
Yes.
And then, Alderman Mueller, you're going to check on that Econo Lodge, I call it the Holiday Inn, certificate of tax, to find an attorney to handle that.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, we should probably get somebody on that sooner rather than later.
Did you get the certificate in?
We did.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then, so somebody's responsible to do that, because that has a lot of statutory pitfalls.
Yeah.
You want somebody that does that type of work.
Okay.
Speaking of the hotels, anything on the King's Inn as far as the demolition bids? Are those coming forward soon?
We did a bid opening this week. Wait, today's Monday.
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday at 10 a.m. And Sean has put together the bid tabs, and
Oh.
I can get one out to you. I'll email one out to you tomorrow.
Yeah, we just haven't distributed them yet, but they, bids ranged from roughly $300,000 to $600,000, so.
I think on that particular one, that might be one the council wants to be aware of. And I think Sean did most of that work himself, internally, so that was one where hiring, our engineer saved us a little bit of, outsourcing costs, so.
I know one issue we were looking at, and Sean and I were talking about today, is where we want to bring that property back to. Whether we want to put grass in there, or we just want to keep it at rock. Because if there's going to be something going right away in there, there was a lot of money in there for putting grass back in there. So I think that's something he was going to discuss at a committee meeting. So.
Well, we would have to cut the grass then, correct? Why would we want to put?
That's what we were talking about, because there'd be more issues there, so.
Your Honor, also, I just want to make a note from a public work standpoint. We haven't had a lot of snow the last few years, and, you know, I think it's important, and from what I've seen, residents have been fairly happy with the snow removal over the course of the last weekend. What I have heard and what I've seen is from the downtown area that there looks like there's quite a big buildup of snow, and as that accumulates, we're going to have to take the snow out of there from a business perspective. I think the businesses and what we've done in the past is we've had to carry that snow out somewhere, and we should be ready to do that again.
Alderman Putoff, when we talked about this at the last meeting today, and I think one of the problems on 4th Street was the parking, and I went by later in the morning and noticed that a lot of the big piles of snow were results of parking. Cars parked there, and then they got moved, and you got a pile of snow that's frozen. We're going to address that at our next safety meeting.
Yeah, I think you almost need to apply a different ordinance so you can clear that out of there. And some of it is handwork, too, where the city workers will have to get out and, you know, do some handwork to get it removed.
But there again, when it comes to the business owners, I think they need to get some shovels out and shovel it off the sidewalks and curbs themselves too. I mean, us as homeowners do it, they should have to do it too.
Yeah, and I guess, where do you put the snow then? And that's where you're coming from, is the snow will have to be removed from the parking or off Route 6 somewhere else so people can have access to the business. And again, when people participate in their business or buy retail or buy something, we as a city benefit from that. So it's not only a safety standpoint, it's good economic sense to do it.
New business, any new business?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to, I think it's only fair that we discuss, or at least I would like to express my thoughts on the resignation of Superintendent Mikos. I, along with everyone else, many of us are not too happy with his resignation, and I appreciate his reasoning for resigning. However, in my opinion, along with many others, I feel that Mayor Harrell is a contributing factor to his resignation, and I feel a lot of it has plays a role in this payroll investigation. And I think it would be very courageous if the mayor would take it upon himself to take a leave of absence until this investigation is over.
No, that's not going to happen.
Well, it's up to you. I just thought it would be a courageous thing to do so we can continue moving forward. I have nothing further.
Any other new business? Petitions, communications?
Yes, Your Honor. We have actually two petitions, one of which is on the agenda, and that's from Dahl Estates LLC seeking additional zoning amendments, waivers, and approvals.
Could make a motion to refer this to planning and zoning.
Second.
I have a motion by Alderman LaCosta, second by Alderman Putoff, to receive the petition and pass it on to planning and zoning for review recommendation. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
And then there's a second one that was received, and I believe that corporate counsel wanted this to be onto the zoning agenda for early January. This is a zoning from regarding the Ledzinski annexation and variance request.
Yes, that was already received, and that's just an amended petition.
That's already been referred, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. So you can refer the amended petition if you want, but notice has not yet been published on that. We were waiting on the amended petition because variances were also needed.
Do you need a motion to refer that?
That's fine. It'd be Plan Commission and Zoning Board.
Refer it to a joint meeting of the planning and zoning.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alderman Radke, second by Alderman Lukosius to refer the amended letter for Lizinski's annexation. Refer it to the planning and zoning review recommendation. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Public comment. We have any public comment? Any public comment? Going twice. Any public comment going 3 times? Closed session. I see there's something on there. I've been told by a few that we do or do not need it. I don't know. Nothing? Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Perez, second by Alderman Ferrari for adjournment. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, meeting adjourned.